Hello everyone, it is actually right past 5 p.m. and we are ready to start the Bookoplathon. Now 5 p.m. does seem like a weird time to start this, but I live in Arizona and this readathon is going from midnight UK time between Friday and Saturday up through midnight UK time between Sunday and Monday. So for me that does mean that this readathon is starting at 5 p.m. which I'm actually okay with. We're gonna end up having 4 different roles throughout this readathon, and this gives me a little bit more delineation in between each role. We have had the first set, and there's 2 roles for each one because there's 2 different boards, and the ones that we have for the very first prompts are a fantasy and a book with a dark cover. Last year when I did this, I picked one prompt from each set of roles and tried to do 4 books. I think I'm still gonna try for 4 books, but I think what I'm going to do is try to combine the prompts because it just seems fun, but also maybe potentially a little bit harder to do. And since we are starting here at 5 p.m., I basically have enough reading time from 5 to bedtime, and then the next roles are going to happen at 5 a.m. when I will be sleeping. But that means I want to pick something that I'm hopefully going to be able to finish tonight so I don't have to worry about it tomorrow. And Presley currently has the book that I'm going to be reading, which is Death Vigil. Yeah. Yes, you're on the camera. Can I show them the book? You want to show? Can you show the camera? Yes. So it is Death Vigil. It says volume 1 on there, but from my understanding, this is the entire series. There are 8 issues of comics that went into this volume, and this is the whole thing, and this is by Stay Up on Sage. This is a book that I have wanted to read for years. I actually picked up this volume a couple years ago at a Phoenix Comic-Con fan fest, fan fusion thing. I never remember what the name of that is supposed to be nowadays. And one, it has a dark cover. Can we still, Presley, can you show? There we go, yeah, a dark cover, but it also has necromancers, so definite fantasy stuff going on, and since it is a graphic novel comic bind up, I think it's something I can definitely finish by bedtime tonight. It is 8 issues, so it's double the amount of a normal trade paperback comic bind up, but it still shouldn't take me too long. However, with the fact that Presley is currently holding it, I don't know when I'm actually going to be able to read it. Also, because it is 5 p.m., we will have to start doing dinner soon. It is my husband's night to cook, so that does help me a whole lot. But otherwise, yeah, we're starting the Bookoplathon. I'm super excited for this. We're going to be reading books for a whole 48 hours, and I'm going to be vlogging it. So thank you for coming along on this journey. I don't think I'm going to be reading anything anytime soon because he has the book, but I will talk to you guys when I have an update. I was gonna read. No B-roll today. Okay, so I am this far, this first part, into Death Vigil so far because that's how much I was able to read before dinner, and then we had to put the baby to bed. It is now 9 o'clock. I definitely want to get more reading of this done because my goal ultimately was to finish this before I go to bed tonight. However, I usually go to bed within the next couple hours, and I need to get some editing done because I have a big video coming up on Monday. But I'm actually really enjoying this so far. So this follows actually characters from the Death Vigil. I don't know too much about them except for they're not really Grim Reapers. They're sort of there to protect humanity from demons, I believe it is. And the necromancers that this book deals with are the bad guys who are trying to summon demons, I think. Again, I'm not super far into it, but I'm actually really enjoying the characterization. The characters are actually quite humorous and sarcastic, and I'm loving the art style as well. I have a feeling this might be a 5-star read, and I probably shouldn't be saying that and jinxing it because I have not actually had any 5-star reads in March yet. I have had some 4s and 4.5s, but I haven't had a 5-star. But so far, this is really, really good. But yes, I need to do some editing. This is probably going to be my update for tonight, and I will then let you guys know how much I was able to finish tomorrow morning, and then we will also see the new rolls. Hello and good morning. It is officially Saturday, and I did actually finish Death Vigil last night at like 11:30 p.m. It's later than I usually go to bed, but I just had to finish it. It is a full 5 stars. This was freaking amazing. I absolutely loved the characters and the like snark and humor, and even though they are the Death Vigil, they don't take everything seriously. I also just loved the art style too. I didn't really realize this, but it does appear that Stay Up on Stage does a lot of artwork. However, this one is like his book. So not only did he do the artwork and everything, he also did the story. I have some glare here, but I absolutely love this. I think I mentioned before, this is issues 1 through 8, and it says volume 1, but like there's no information on volume 2. However, I did do a little light Twitter stalking last night, after I finished this because I had to know, and it does look like he is actually doing some pages for Death Vigil, and apparently you can start reading them as they come out on his Patreon. I have not done that yet, but it's a good possibility that I might, because I absolutely love this. It ended well. It definitely ended well for this volume. However, it had little cliffhangers at the end to keep it open, because like obviously if people are gonna like your story, they're probably gonna want more, and it's a good thing to leave those things open. So even though this arc definitely concluded, it had some openings for more, and I love this so much. It is currently 8 a.m., which means we are like 3 hours after when the drop actually happened for the next rolls. So I do think we're gonna pull those up now, because I need to pick my next read.
Bookoplathon board roll number 2 is a 7, and that is a book with POC rep. 2021 board roll number 2 is 7, and that is a contemporary.
Okay, so it looks like we need to read a book that has POC rep and a contemporary if I want to combine both prompts, which I do feel like I want to, and that shouldn't be too hard to find. So let me take a look at my books and I will come back to you. Okay, and so I have decided, I think we are going to go with Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. So this one is written by a black author, features a black main character. I do believe our love interest is also Asian. Yuki Yamamoto makes me think probably Japanese. So we definitely have POC representation in here, and it is a contemporary. This is supposed to be, I believe, an adult romance. However, in my bookstore it was in the just general fiction section, but it is also under 300 pages. So I think this is going to be the perfect actual book to try to read in like, what do we have now, like 9 hours? I'm gonna hopefully finish this before the next rolls at 5 p.m., but I will let you guys know throughout the day how this goes. Okay, so I am almost halfway done with Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. I am really enjoying it so far. Basically, we have our main character of Grace, who does end up marrying a girl while she's drunk in Vegas, and we also have her sort of figuring out her life. She has a PhD in astronomy, but she is half black and half white, and she is finding that because of the color of her skin, she is not really getting the opportunities that a white person probably would get. She is definitely feeling that there is some racism or prejudice going on when she's going on like interviews and that kind of stuff, so she's definitely dealing with a lot going on right now. And because of that, she's decided to take a break from work and visit her wife in New York City. That's basically where we are right now. I'm definitely loving the like friendship element in this group, because Grace has some really good friends that she lives with in Portland, and then we also do see some friends that Yuki lives with as well. One thing I will definitely say, and it's not a bad thing whatsoever, but it is one thing that I've definitely noticed, is that these friends are very lovey and touchy and that kind of stuff, and that is something that I wish we were able to see a lot more. I know that there's this sort of like culture almost in the United States where like any sort of like touching in that way is almost always deemed sexual or romantic, and I love being able to see that it's not in this book at all. And so it's just a very different dynamic than what we see in a lot of media. And so yes, because I am like almost halfway through this one, I think my Bookly app says that I have like an hour and a half left in it, and it is just past 3:40. So even if I was going to sit down and just read through this book right now, I do not think I'm going to finish it by 5 p.m. when we are going to get the next roll drops. However, Presley is actually sleeping right now. He had a sort of nap earlier today, earlier than normal, and so he didn't have a nap at the normal time, but then he got really cranky and he is now sleeping. And I think because he is currently taking a nap, I'm going to try and go do some editing for videos in the office, which means I am going to put this on pause for now. I am enjoying where I am. I definitely want to see where it's going to go, but I do not think I'm going to finish it before 5 p.m. However, that's not necessarily a bad thing. We have a full 48 hours in this readathon to read everything that we're going to read. So even though I'm not going to finish it before the next roll drop, I'm hoping to finish this one today for sure. And because I'm not going to finish this before the next roll drop, we might end up having me showing you what I'm going to pick for my next read before I finish this. But I'm going to go get some editing done, and I will see you soon, probably. Okay, we're back in the office. I have not gotten any more reading done yet, but it is actually like 5:40. It is past time for the rolls, and so I figured we might as well just do this now, since I don't know if I'm going to actually be finishing Honey Girl until later tonight once Presley goes to bed, because it's almost dinner time. So let me pull up the rolls.
Bookoplathon board roll number 3 is an 8. And that is the first book in a series. 2021 board roll number 3 is a 9. And that is a chance card, and my chance card is Confess by Colleen Hoover.
Okay, so this one might get a little bit complicated because our two rolls are the first book in a series and a chance card. And for a chance card, we basically have to have an even number of books that I want to read and I don't want to read. And since I want to combine the prompts, I need to then pick at least a couple books that are the first in the series that I definitely want to read, and a couple books that are the first in the series that I don't want to read. And I can either do this where I then like mix them up and randomly pick, or I could let people vote on Twitter, which I might do, but I have to pick 4 books. 2 that I want to read, 2 that I don't. I don't want anything super long because we still have a whole nother roll that we're gonna get in the morning, technically for me. So, wow. And I've not finished Honey Girl yet. Okay, I definitely need to look through my books and come back to you guys in a bit. Okay, so we just had dinner, but I did want to let you guys know, still reading Honey Girl. But I did pick out 4 different books for the potential chance card / first book in a series, and then I did post a poll on Twitter. That is actually, Presley tried to grab the camera. That is actually not done yet because I wanted to give it a couple hours at least for people to vote. And then it should be done around the time he goes to bed. So I want to say we probably still have close to like another hour or so on there, but the books I picked, we have Still House Lake by Rachel Kane. This is an adult mystery or thriller. We have Skullduggery Pleasant, which is a middle grade fantasy. We have Death Note Volume 1, which is actually the black edition, so it's Volume 1 and 2, but it is a manga. And then we have Volume 1 of Fables. This is a comic bind-up. So obviously, or at least to me it's obvious, the good ones that I'm hoping for are the manga or comic, because those I should be able to finish, if not tonight, tomorrow morning, pretty darn quickly, and then we can get into the last roll. The ones that I'm not hoping for as much, although I still really do want to read them, are the books. They are both under 300 pages, which is great. That was one of the things that I was actually looking for, because I want, in case they do win, I want to be able to finish them this weekend. They're both under 300 pages, but realistically, I would like the other 2. So while I do want to read them, I don't want to read them right now. So we shall see. I think I'm gonna get some work done, hopefully, before we put Presley to bed. Can you say hi? Yeah, you're on the camera. And then, like I said, I am reading Honey Girl still. I'm getting closer to the end. I think I'm like 2/3 of the way through. It's a very quick read. I just haven't had as much time to read today as I would like. So yes. Good morning. It is Sunday morning at like almost 9. I am getting ready to eat breakfast. It is currently doing its thing, but I did not finish Honey Girl last night. I do have a little bit less than 100 pages, so this is definitely like first priority this morning for sure. I am still liking it well enough. I don't think it's gonna be a full 5 stars, but I am leaning more towards like a 4 because there are definite things that I'm loving, but it also just feels like they're going back and forth about certain issues that I wish as a relationship we would sort of just speed up a little bit. Not necessarily to say that you can't have issues in a relationship, but it just feels like there's been hints about stuff and it is eventually gonna blow up in their faces, and I don't love the whole like 3rd act breakup, and I don't know if that's gonna actually happen here or not, but it might, so we'll see. And then we did get the results of the poll last night. So I'm gonna pull those up so you guys can see. I have obviously not read that book yet because I'm still in Honey Girl, but out of a total of 79 votes, 48% voted for Death Note. So definitely one of the better picks that I put on this list, although I would have been okay mostly with any of them. I do actually own the entire Death Note series, have not read them, mostly because I have watched most of the anime a couple times, but I've never actually finished it to the end. After a certain something happens to my favorite character, I give up. So I'm hoping the actual manga will be a little bit easier to get through that way. This is the black edition, which is technically volumes 1 and 2, but because I have the black editions, we are counting this as one book because it's a manga. Hopefully it won't take too long. And then because I still technically have these 2 books to finish, and even though the last rolls have dropped, I'm not going to look. I don't want to have to think about that yet. Watch it be something where I need you guys to vote. We shall see. But I don't want to have to think about that yet until I've at least finished Honey Girl, potentially finished both of these, and then we will take a look. Okay, so it is just after 10 and I have now officially finished Honey Girl. I think I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I do want to specify specifically that this is not a romance book. There is a romance in here, and I think that might be tripping me up a little bit because I really fully went into this expecting a romance. This is a contemporary story about our main character of Grace trying to figure out exactly who she is after finishing her PhD. So while this does have the whole her marrying Yuki in Las Vegas and then like them getting together and like sort of experiencing a summer together and figuring out where things are going from there, this is not a romance. This is 100% a contemporary, and I do feel like that is a different vibe than what I was expecting going in. I really did love like the last 100 pages that I read today. It was very emotional, and I really loved like what was going on, but don't go into it expecting the romance, because that is not the main point of this story. There are some trigger warnings for like healthcare issues. We have some like self-harm, and they talked about borderline personality disorder, anxiety disorder. I think they also had depression or a depressive something, but yes, just keep that in mind. I still really liked this. I liked the writing style. I liked the whole idea of very touchy-feely friends that I mentioned yesterday, even though that's not something I'm super like experienced with, because like I said before, here in the States especially, it seems like there is a sort of like, not necessarily stigma with like touchy-feely stuff, but there's definitely a connotation with that to be more towards romance and sexual instead of just friendship, which shouldn't be that way, but it definitely is. I did really enjoy this, and I had to jump into the office here because Presley's actually watching some Yo Gabba Gabba this morning because I wanted to finish that as quickly as possible. So I think while we're in the office, I'm going to pull up the last rolls. I have not finished Death Note yet, but that I do think is going to be pretty easy to get through. So I sort of now want to know what those rolls are going to be so I can plan my last read.
And Bookoplathon board roll number 4 is 11. And that is a book set in the present. And the final roll for the 2021 board is a 9. And that is other, so that is any genre outside of the ones that you typically read.
A book set in the present should not be too hard. But something that's in a genre I don't normally read? I read so many different genres. Okay, I am glad that we looked these up now because it is only 10 a.m. and I have until 5 p.m. to finish Death Note and One More Thing. But I have no idea what that one more thing is going to be yet. At all. Okay, so it is exactly 2 p.m. right now. And I have finished the first volume of Death Note, or the first volume of Death Note Black Edition at least, giving it 5 out of 5 stars. So I feel like I should have known that I was going to do that because I absolutely loved the anime of the stuff that was at the beginning, especially because eventually I did sort of DNF the anime, but this storytelling, the way it sets it all up, is great. I'm loving the sort of like beginnings of the actual rivalry between Kira and Elle, and yes, loved this so much. Definitely need to continue, although I'm not eagerly anticipating some of the later books. And now it is 2 p.m. because we had lunch a little bit late. I got Presley down for a nap. And I do think I'm going to take a little bit of a break and try to do some editing. However, I have also picked the next book and the final book that I'm going to be reading for the Bookoplathon. And trying to figure out this book was definitely sort of hard because the biggest part that was sort of tripping me up was the whole a genre I don't read much of part of it. Because I read a lot of fantasy, I definitely try to read a lot of sci-fi, and even though contemporary that doesn't have much romance in it isn't my favorite, I do feel like I still read quite a bit of contemporary, especially that has romances. So I don't usually read nonfiction, but I only have a couple books for that and they're way too long to read in something like this, especially since I only have 3 hours left. And I don't read historical fiction. However, I'm combining my prompts for this readathon, and we also have to read something set in the present day. So historical fiction is out completely. So what I did do is look on my stats in my reading spreadsheet that I keep throughout the year, and one thing that I have noticed is I have only read one actual horror book this year, whereas like fantasy, romance, contemporary, sci-fi, they're all like 6 or more. So I've definitely read enough of those that I'm going to ignore that. And so I'm gonna pick a horror. And I do have some horror novellas on my Kindle app, which is what I'm going to be using because of the fact that like I'm pretty sure Presley's gonna end up sort of waking up from his nap and wanting to cuddle. And I do find reading an ebook while cuddling is way easier than reading a physical book. So the one that I have picked is Come Forth in Thaw by Jason Robert Duchart. This one is one that Christina from the Northwest Reader has read before, gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It's only 110 pages, and it's supposed to be some sort of really creepy horror about like a suicide forest, but I think it also is from the point of view of a mom, like because of her teenager. I don't know much, but it sounded very intriguing, especially since Christina liked it, and it's only 110 pages. So this is something that I should be easily able to finish in 3 hours, even though it's gonna be less than 3 hours because I do need to do some editing, which is why we're here in the office. But that is gonna be my last book for this readathon. I'm gonna stop talking to you guys so I can get some editing done. Okay, so it is now 3 p.m. I've been editing for about an hour. I'm gonna take a break from that and go read, even though Presley's not fussing yet. Usually, or at least lately, I've been getting about an hour-ish editing done before he gets fussy, so I am gonna go start reading even though he's not ready to cuddle yet. But I need to get this reading done before 5 p.m. and we have 2 hours left. So I think I'm gonna go do that and I will see you guys when I'm done. What?
Mama.
What?
Mama.
Yeah.
Mama.
Mama. Okay everyone, it is 4:15 and I've officially finished Come Forth in Thaw. So I think I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 stars because it is quite short. It's only 110 pages and I did get into it pretty darn quickly. The writing style is really good. There are very creepy moments in this, very graphic moments in this, but the ending didn't quite fit together for me. I did think some of it was a little bit predictable, not necessarily in a bad way, but I just assumed that's sort of where we were going. But there were some things going into like the very end that I just wasn't sure how they sort of fit together. I feel like I just needed slightly more explanation for it, but it wasn't any way bad. It just wasn't a full 5 stars for me. Don't go over there. You stay here. One thing I will say is at least Jason did try to bring in talk of mental health in the book. So like the very beginning, like the foreword in the book said, over the course of the 2010s, the West developed a growing interest in Aokigahara Forest, Japan's infamous suicide forest near Mount Fuji. This began as innocent, if slightly morbid fascination, but eventually became exploitation. Several horror movies, books, and games emerged set in the forest, and virtually none of them had anything meaningful to say about suicide, mental illness, or trauma. I do like the fact that he tried to include stuff about mental illness in the talk about suicide. Keep in mind, there are trigger warnings for suicide and graphic images relating to that in this book because that's basically what this whole thing is about. But yeah, 4 out of 5 stars just because it didn't quite wrap up as neatly as I would have hoped. I just needed a little bit more from that. But I do think it was well written and I would be open to reading more from this author in the future. Mama. Yeah, mama. And then hi, baby. Yeah. And then we are actually done now for the Bookoplathon. Like I said, it's about 4:15, so I did finish early, but I'm happy with that because I do need to do more editing. And this readathon for me, this instance of the readathon was definitely harder than the last time I did this. Last time we did this, my in-laws were actually still living with us and Presley was much younger. So I had some help with him, but also he wasn't as much trying to get into things. But overall, I did actually end up finishing 4 items, 1 like novel, 1 novella, 1 graphic novel, and 1 manga. So like none of them are even like a duplicate, but I had a really fun time. I absolutely love this type of readathon. Like, I know it's the only one really that I've seen do this where you don't know all your prompts as you go, but I sort of like the progression of like, you get to have more things as you go, and you get to sort of choose how you deal with those things. And so for me, that meant combining prompts because I just thought that would be sort of fun and a little bit more challenging to do. And so, yeah, I had a great time. I really hope we're doing another 48-hour one soon because these are my favorite iterations of the Bookoplathon. And if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. I have videos up Mondays, Thursdays, and sometimes Saturdays, so I will see you in the next one. Bye!